Hi guys, welcome to another Teach to Code. So today we're going to keep working on another GUI, a Graphical User Interface. So what I wanted to do was actually use a couple of text fields. And we're going to go ahead and add two numbers. And we're going to use a JFrame to hold everything in it. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is come to File, New Project, or whatever IDE you're going to start a new Java project. So for this one, we'll just name it GUI Test 2, since this is part 2, or we're working with another GUI part 2, I guess, however you want to iterate that idea. Alright. So we're going to need some variables to start with. So I'm going to say let's just go ahead and start here at the top. And we'll work our way down. So first, we're going to need a JFrame. And it's actually going to have to be static to be accessed everywhere within the class JF. Then we're going to have public, static. We're going to need some text fields, so JTextField. And then we could just call it JTF1. Or let's just name it TF1, text field 1. Okay, public, static, JTextField. And this one will be text field 2. And we will need a JLabel and a button, so let's go ahead and do it. Public, static, JLabel, it'll be JL, and then we're going to need a J button, so public, static, J button, and we'll just call that JB. So I have all these errors here because we need the imports. So hover over them and import them. However you do that with your IDE if you're not using NetBeans. So we went ahead and imported everything. So these are the variables that we're going to do. So the JLabel is going to be the one that actually displays the answer. So the text fields will be the ones that are going to be for the user to input the number. The JLabel will display the answer, and the J button will be to execute the action. So let's go ahead and do it. So the first thing we got to do is TF1 is equal to new JTextField. And we're just going to say number 1 in this. So we're going to pass a string into the parameter, just number 1. And what we need to do here is tf1.setBounds. So we're going to place it somewhere. And what we're going to do is 60x, 40y, 60 width, and 24 height. Okay. So now we're going to do tf1.setColumns. So what setColumns does is it sets the number of columns that you could have in the text box. So we're going to have 15 columns long. So alright. So next we're going to do the tf2 object. And we're going to equal a new, so we got to instantiate the object or make a new object of JTextField. We're just going to pass into the parameter, well the argument rather, number 2. So we're going to give it a string argument of number 2, tf2.setBounds. And we're going to set that to 180. 40 for the y, so 180 for the x, 40 for the y, 60 for the width and 24 for the height. Okay. And this one we're also going to set columns of 15. Okay. So we pass 15 into that argument there. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. We're going to go ahead and put our label. So JL is equal to new JLabel. And then the JLabel, we're just going to leave it blank for now. So we're going to pass a blank argument into it. And it's giving me an error. Let's see what I did. I did import JLabel, right? Yeah. Let's see what the error is giving me. Oh, I didn't put an equals there. There we go. Put a minus. Alright. So JL.setBounds. So I just kind of worked all these numbers out when I was programming it and just, you know, messing around with it. I'm trying to learn some more efficient ratios and whatnot to plug in. Because I think if you could just kind of see a ratio, no matter what window it is, the application would be pretty much ready to go. But anyways, oh, so I hit an M instead of the comma, so there we go. So we're going to place that JLabel at 90x, 80y, it'll be 150 width and 24 height. So next we're going to go ahead and do the J button, so we got to instantiate the object. So we're going to tell it to make a new J button. And with that J button, we're going to say add. So the button's going to add when you click it. So we're just going to go ahead and pass that argument in there. The string add. Then we'll go ahead and set bounds so that way we can place the button within the frame. We'll do 120x, 120y. We'll do 60 width and 24 height. Okay. So next we're going to go ahead and make the JFrame object. So we're going to go ahead and call JF, and that's going to equal new JFrame. In the new JFrame we're just going to call it Add Numbers. Okay, so now that we have the new JFrame, we got to do the whole set default close operation to make sure that things are closing properly when we exit the app. We need to do jf.setSize, and we're going to just set the size to 300 and 200. Okay. Now jf.setVisible, we want the frame to be visible, so that's going to be true. jf.set relative. Set location relative to. That's why it's not popping up from location relative to. And we're going to set it relative to null, so that way when we run the program, it'll actually pop up in the middle of our screen. And then finally, jf.setLayout, in order to make it a relative layout where we can put our objects wherever we'd like on the JFrame. Okay. So next we're just going to add everything to the JFrame, so it'll be jf.add. We're just going to go ahead and add tf1, and we're going to pretty much add 4 things to this right now, so let's go ahead and just copy and paste for now. So next we want to add the second text box, we want to add our JLabel, and then we want to add our J button. Okay. Awesome. So everything should be added. Let's go ahead and run the program and see what we have so far. So So right now we programmed the box, we programmed the 2 text boxes, and we programmed the actual button. So that's all we've done so far. Alright. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So we're going to need a couple of things. The first thing I think we should do is actually do the mouse listener. So mouse listeners we haven't done, they're a little bit new. So what we're going to do is do TF1, so we're going to call the first text box. And the reason why we're going to call the mouse listener is because when we click on the boxes, we want the text to disappear. So I could show you guys what that means by opening the program now, but give me just a second. So what I meant by that is when we click here, it doesn't disappear, right? So what I want the user to do is not have to click in and, you know, get that to fill out and have to erase stuff. So I want to make it easy for the user. So this is a way you could go about this. So what we're going to pass into the argument is a new mouse listener. Okay. And into that new mouse listener, we're going to open up some curly braces. It's going to get frustrated with us because it wants the import there. So now it's going to give us an error here. For me, I just implement abstract methods because for some reason when I am typing this stuff out, my NetBeans doesn't like it these days. So we pretty much are going to only use the mouse click method. So there's a lot of methods here. Mouse press, we're not going to worry about that. Mouse release, we're not going to worry about that. Mouse entered, we're not going to worry about that. Mouse exited, we're not going to worry about that. So we're just going to comment out the throws here so we don't get all these error messages. And for mouse clicked, we only need to do one thing. So all this method and stuff for just one little line of code. So tf1.setText, and we're going to set it to blank. We want it to be an empty string. So all that work just to make sure when the user clicks in the box, he's going to get, he or she will get an empty box when they click on it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this because if I just take this method here, so I copied all the way up from where I added the mouse listener. So what I'm going to do here is come here and paste. And I'm going to change the mouse listener to 2. So I also want this to happen with my second text box. So let me go ahead and shut this down. Let's rerun it. Let's see if we at least accomplished that little task. Okay, cool. So it seemed like it glitched out there, but it did seem like it worked. There we go. Okay. So far we got the mouse listener going. That's good. You know, that's an extra thing to do, you know, not necessarily needed, but it is what it is. So next we're going to go ahead and pretty much program the button. I mean, that's all that's left to do. So we'll go ahead and do, let me make sure I'm in the right spot here. So I gotta be right after the semicolon. Make sure you have 2 curly braces right below you. So we're gonna do jButton.addActionListener. So we're gonna listen for that action when it's clicked. We're gonna do a new action listener into the argument. I need curly braces, and then we can program. Okay. So it's pretty much going to want us to add the method. It likes to add the method for me. I'm not frustrated with that at all, but you know, it is what it is. I like typing them out. I don't know. When I went to programming school, my teacher pretty much made us type everything, so it's stuck. Alright, so inside of action performed, we're going to do a try. So what we're going to try is all this different stuff. So first we're going to do int a is equal to, well, I guess we could do doubles in case they want to add doubles. We'll leave it as ints for now. So integer dot parse int. Now I'll go ahead and explain this code to you. Let me just type it out so we can get it off our chest. So get text. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm making a variable to store whatever the user types in the first text box here. Now integer.parseInt is to take the string, because see, when you're typing a 3 inside of a text box, it's still considered a string. It's still considered text. So in order for Java to do math to it, we have to parse it. We have to make it an integer. We have to say, read this string and give me a data type of type integer. Now, of course, it's going to throw an error if it doesn't have an integer, like a letter or something, right? So when we put in the text box, it has to be a number. Now this is why we're doing the try, so we could catch this exception. What if the user doesn't put a number, right? So let's just keep moving forward. So if we're going to add two numbers, we need two integers, right? So integer.parseInt, no, nothing new here. Except we're going to get text from the second text box here. So these get and set methods really are the bread and butter of Java. Now we're going to do one more variable to store the actual sum of a plus b. And then last thing we need to do is use the JLabel. So JLabel.setText. And then what we're going to say is your number is to the user. Oh, and then we're going to go ahead and do string dot value of, and I'll explain why we're using value of, string value of. So now we have a number, an integer, right? Sum. Well, you can't put integers inside of a text box. Only text boxes can be in, only text or characters or strings can be inside of text boxes. So after you have your number here, after adding and doing your arithmetic, what we're basically doing is we're parsing it back to a string. They don't really call it parsing per se. That's why it's a different method, string.value of. But essentially it's the same concept. So anyways, the try's still in the red because we never caught anything, right? So we need a catch. Let's go ahead and say exception E. So if you haven't worked with exceptions, I'm just thinking I probably got to make some of these videos. So it's frustrated with exception E. Let me see why. Oh, because we're using it for action performed. So let's just go ahead and call it EX. So what we're going to catch here is JL.setText. So we're not even going to tell, well, we're telling the user something, I guess, right? We're going to say, please enter a number. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. Let's see what happens. Let's see if it blows up. So I'm going to put 7. I don't know, maybe something like 65. Add. Your number is 72. So what if we put F? Please enter a number. Please enter numbers, right? What if we did negative numbers, you might wonder? It calculates negative numbers appropriately. 9 minus 5 is 4. 8 minus 6 is 2. The negative has, it's further from the negative than the positive, so -24. So this is how we could go about programming a program to add numbers. Now if you're starting to think, yes, we could program subtraction very easily, right? We would just change this to minus, multiply, divide. So if you guys want to modify the program, that's essentially how you would modify it to do different math. So these concepts, they're kind of tiny, but you know what? These concepts would really go into doing a calculator. So for a calculator, you would have to grab the text, you would have to parse them to integers or doubles depending on what kind of calculator you're making. Eventually you would do the calculation and then you would have to spit it out back as a string. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please go ahead and give me a like and subscribe if you're getting any value out of these, and comment down below if there's any projects that you guys are interested on having me work on and maybe showing you. So thank you guys, have a nice day.